So it'd be like 25,000 a year, but you got to consider 2 years. I don't know. And I don't know if our fund balance is going to be what, close to $1.5 million.
I think I
We're
have
close to $1.4 million. $1.4 million. You know, then we got to think about how much fund balance we should have.
guess, well, tell me what you think, but I think like what Dawn said, catching up with inflation a little bit, especially since it's going to be a 2-year levy, and it appears that this year and next year, things are going to be going the opposite direction of what they have been going with state and state.
So do you think, like Don was saying, the 3%, 25 per year, well, we'll up to 1,400, sufficient, or?
Well, if you did 75, you get 75 years, so that'd be 50,000 overall.
Yes, yeah.
But it's 25,000.
A year.
Right, so you gotta have 50,000 next year, so you gotta have 75,000, so you might as well have 100,000.
Yeah. That's true. I didn't think about that, but that's true.
And even just looking at this budget, I mean, you can tell this budget's a little bit different. I mean, it's higher than previous budgets.
Right.
I mean, that's a lot of
And
time.
then we're being told 6% less.
We don't have as much money unallocated, and just make sure we keep that balance, in this budget.
The other thing I wanted to ask about is the 21st century program. After this year, what are we gonna do? Because that's gonna be on us, right?
So the 21st, and I was gonna talk a little bit about this when I gave my, report, but, so as of right now, that money is frozen. The 21st century program money alone, so the title money.
Title 2, Title 4.
Yeah, it's not Title I, but, two.
No, we can't.
So, that, assuming we do end up getting that money, it becomes unfrozen, then we would have that grant through this year, and then if we
Superintendent budget update, showing how we ended out last year as of June 30th. And then I also got from Zion's, I think Dawn asked at the budget hearing last meeting about the bond. Zion's provided me with a statement. So bond payoff, our last payment will be August 15th of 2031, and there's, you can kind of see where we're at with all of that. We do have a payment due the end of this month, so I'll be coming out. No, we don't need to. We're not to.
Well, we do have the district policy that
Yes.
governs
Okay.
everything.
Yes.
And then this gets into the details
Okay.
at the high school.
But, it's we can page 20.
Thanks.
Private toys, is what it's called.
Oh, that's
She had a problem. I understand.
No, well, it calls it out. It calls out the. Soccer is non-contact.
Do not be reading this right
on this later.
I'll move to approve that JS. Second.
Moving and seconded to approve the JS handbook. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Carried unanimously. Approve this one.
Any questions on the high school? There was a couple typos that found for me already fixed.
I was not listening.
I was kind of looking for some myself, just like
Fixing this
Done.
Ross.
Well, I think I had it, I had it all.
You gonna point it out?
Those are bad.
Oh, I need to know how to spell that. Bunch of casseroles over there. I move to accept the high school student handbook.
I'll second it. All those in favor of accepting the KJS high school student handbook, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, and we're to the policy review.
Okay, I apologize, just wondering.
I guess we'll get tired of it.
This is the most we've ever had in an update from ISBA. Plus we have two that, we have in there, kind of like put in there just for review for us. So, stop me if you have any questions or if you want to get into them. A lot of these policies, in the draft that ISBA sends, it has things in yellow where you have to make a choice on something. Those aren't new choices, those are things you guys have already made choices on. So really it's kind of the newer stuff unless there's something you want to go back and change. What do you write down? Some thoughts on something. So, okay. This update is based on the changes in law from the 2025 legislative session and includes most of the updates that we anticipate making based on this year's legislation that takes effect July 1st. The high-profile updates addressed here include a new policy based on flags on school grounds and updates implementing new requirements for parent permission for instruction on topics that fall within the new statutory definition of human sexuality. It also includes edits prompted by change to the law on required public comment at board meetings and by the new more relaxed process for hiring spouses of board members to work in school districts. Okay. legislature passed House Bill 172, which requires that all consent agenda items be routine in nature. It explicitly excludes fee resolution, ordinances, or items requiring more than a simple majority to pass from inclusion on the consent agenda. This update adds the new requirements about student fees and items that require more than a simple majority to pass, in addition to some minor edits for readability and grammatical cleanup. Consent agenda items can always be withdrawn from the consent agenda and be taken up separately with discussion during the meeting. This is a recommended update to a required procedure. 1615 trustee spouse employment. These edits add a new, easier process to hire spouses of board members in districts with 400 or fewer students. This is a recommended update to a recommended policy. Any questions? 2320, health, sex education, and human sexuality. This update changes the name of the policy from health enhancement education to health, sex education, and human sexuality. More substantially, the updates to this policy address 3 different pieces of recent legislation. The most wide-reaching of these is House Bill 239, which requires parent permission before a student receives instruction in any topic that falls under the law's broad definition of human sexuality. While we have placed this update in the model policy on health and sex education, school leaders should know that the definition of human sexuality was included in the instruction section of code, meaning it applies more broadly than just sex education. We encourage school leaders to work with their educators to see if they might have content or curriculum that may meet this definition, as some of the topics it includes are quite broad. We encourage you to work with your staff and community to determine whether such materials meet the definition and require permission from the student's parent or guardian. So we used to have an opt-out form, now we will have an opt-in form. And we'll also have to look and see if the definition of human sexuality would be covered in any other class, like biology, for example. I've been emailing our providers for sex ed, wish medical, and they haven't responded, so I don't know if I'll be back or not this fall. So I'm going to have to call and see. They've had quite a bit of turnover there, and so I don't know if they're still providing that service to schools, but they haven't been responding to email, which usually they do pretty good. So we'll find out. So if we have anything that falls under that broad definition, we will have opt-in forms for students. And the form is coming.
And
23.
Did it say in there that, you know, if you didn't, if they didn't opt in and they went to class anyway, like found out that it happened, we have to call it. So this is what they have to do.
Yeah. It does talk about how to rectify that situation. Yeah. 2320 is the parent permission form. This form has been renumbered from 2340 to 2320. The new legislation on human sexuality requires the parents give permission. Essentially, our opt-out form became our opt-in form, and the language changed on it. 2320, parent complaints. 2320P. The new legislation requiring parent permission for instruction on any topic that falls within this legislative definition of human sexuality also directs parents or guardians to complain to the board or its designee if such instruction is provided without parent permission. It also directs boards to adopt a policy on investigating such complaints, but does not provide much detail on what this process should entail. We've provided a sample process for such complaints and their investigation. This is a new required procedure. Okay, so that one is new. Okay, 2340, controversial issues and academic freedom. The title of this policy instruction on these topics as required by House Bill 239. This is a required update to an optional policy. So the only thing of note in that policy that's added is that paragraph in the green, which aligns with that updated law, saying that those items must be age appropriate. for different practices to bring them into alignment with new legislation. This policy and the updates to it relate to selection of public works professionals. Questions so far? 8200, school wellness program.
This just has to be reviewed every 3 years, and I think the last review was in 2019. And when I did our renewal application for child nutrition, it was the only negative mark I got, was it wasn't updated in the last 3 years. So I told them I would get it done. How they didn't catch it in the last 2 years, I don't know, but they didn't, so.
Any question on policy 8200? 8300, emergencies and disaster preparedness. This update is also based on House Bill 224, and it covers additional requirements, including annual review of the plan and training staff on the plan. Parts of this policy have also been rewritten and rearranged for greater clarity. Some parts that address details better covered in the emergency operations plan itself have also been removed. It is important to note that school and district emergency operations plans are exempt from disclosure under Idaho public records law. They may be safety sensitive as they may contain information about how the school and district would respond to an intruder or other bad actor. Recommended update to a recommended procedure. Let's see here. 9803, flags and banners. This is a new policy aimed at implementing House Bill 41A, a new Idaho statute that restricts flags and
suspended